Hey everyone, this is a CLICK PLC trainer that I built, and in this video I will demonstrate it and then I'll talk about how I put it together and some of the thought that went into how I did so. Anyways, do a demonstration first. Turn it on. That breaker controls power to everything. And then I just have a real simple ladder logic program that if I have X3 and X4 turned on, a drum instruction will run that will turn the panel indicators on and off one at a time. And anytime X1 or X2 come on, that'll reset it. And that's basically it. I just wanted a simple program to get a feel for ladder logic and to use all the inputs and outputs that I wired just to verify everything was working. So getting into why I did this and how I went about it. I've been familiar with PLCs for a long time. I've worked in a factory for many years as a software developer, and I haven't done any programming on that side. Everything I do is desktop application development and sysadmin type stuff, but it's something I've been curious about. And I've learned Arduino and Raspberry Pi, done some projects with that, so this seemed like a good next step for me in terms of learning something new. So I went with a CLICK Basic PLC because it's inexpensive, there's a lot of information online, and from everything I've read it's a fairly easy platform to start on. This particular PLC, this is it right here, the CLICK, it's $70, power supply was $30, and programming cable $15, so about $115 to get into that. And really I could have just got those things, wired them in, started programming it, and of course the little LED indicators on the CLICK itself would show me what's going on. But I wanted to do more than that. I wanted to wire some things up to it, see them in action, and also get a feel for how it would be wired in an industrial environment. So that was the point of building the trainer. It's not, exactly how things would be done in an industrial environment. For one thing, I'm new to this, I'm still learning, and I'm sure there's some things that someone looked at it who actually knows what they're doing would say, hey, you shouldn't have done that, or you should have done this differently. The second thing is it just would have been a lot bigger. I don't have wire trays. Those would have required a lot more space, and I wanted to keep it fairly compact. So everything's just kind of tacked to the board. But I do have a DIN rail, terminal blocks, fuses, and I tried to keep the wiring fairly well organized and clean so that it doesn't look like a rat's nest. The PLC and the power supply were brand new, as well as the breaker. Everything else on the DIN rail pretty much was surplus I purchased off eBay. A lot of used stuff that I was able to get good prices on. I found a good deal on a large number of these terminal blocks. They're from Phoenix Contact. I've got various fuse holders. Of course, over here I've got the breaker and the fuses for the two power supplies. This power supply here I purchased I think for like $10 shipped, and that's just to power the panel indicators and provide power to the inputs, so that the isolation between the CLICK PLC and the field devices, which in this case are the indicators and switches, are that isolation is kept separate. Not really important in a situation like this with a trainer. It would have been fine, I'm sure, to run everything off a single power supply. But again, I wanted to kind of do things quote-unquote the right way, just to have a feel for how that's done. And over here I've got some additional fuses. They're all 100 milliamp just to protect the inputs and outputs of the CLICK to ensure that there isn't a situation where too much current's drawn. And the most current it's going to see anywhere is about 80 milliamps because the panel indicators are 20 each and in banks of 4. The panel indicators themselves and the switches, those were all from Amazon.com. They were just a real cheap, no-name brand. Not something you would use in a real industrial setting, but the price was right and they're good enough for the trainer. A few of them, the screw terminals were kind of wonky. They were not always easy to put together. These switches don't really have a good feel to them. This one here, you can see it doesn't quite sit nicely when it's off, but the push buttons are actually pretty well made. Got a good feel to them. And then everything, it's mounted to this board here. The board itself is just some plywood shelving scrap. I picked it up at a Habitat for Humanity restore for like 25 cents and cut it down to the size I wanted and used a drill press to create the holes and mounting locations for all the input and output indicators and switches, and then mounted a piece of DIN rail to it to install everything. Wire is all stuff I either had or I managed to scrounge up, or just a lot of that's just scrap. I try to keep wire here and there where I can, just so I'm not spending a lot of money on it. Part of the reason you see so much yellow wire is because I use yellow for the inputs, since I had a lot of yellow wire from old computer power supplies and things that I had saved. And I think that's basically it. Like I said, there's a few things I would maybe do differently, and there's a few things I'm sure are not necessarily considered best practice, but I think for a first attempt with limited knowledge, I think I did pretty good, and I think it's going to work great for me to learn ladder logic, learn how to work with the CLICK PLC, and I think pretty soon I'm going to try to get my hands on a Allen Bradley Micrologix 1100, and if and when I do, I'll probably build another one of these for that. But yeah, I'm looking forward to using this, and hope you enjoyed this. If you have any questions, suggestions, let me know in the comments. Thanks for checking it out.